Today is not a day to take chances. Across the Midwest and the Mississippi River Valley, all of the ingredients for a dangerous high-end tornado outbreak have come together, and they've done it with unusual clarity. The Storm Prediction Center has issued a CIG2 designation for this event, the most serious intensity signal in severe weather forecasting, specifically flagging violent EF3 or stronger tornadoes across central Illinois. That's not language anyone uses lightly, so get your plan together right now because this afternoon and evening could turn historic. Let's get right into the forecast. The SPC has an enhanced risk, level 3 out of 5, covering central and southern Illinois, most of east and central Missouri, and stretching south into northwestern Tennessee. Outside of that, a slight risk covers an enormous corridor from southern Wisconsin all the way down toward Memphis and Nashville. We're talking about more than 55 million people inside some portion of today's threat area. Every hazard of severe weather is on the table, large to very large hail, widespread damaging winds, and tornadoes, including the potential for strong, long-track, and violent tornadoes in the highest risk corridor. The CIG2 hatch sits squarely over central Illinois, and a broader CIG1 zone fans out across most of the state and into western Kentucky. And look at the probability numbers. The CSU machine learning forecast put peak severe probability for this event at 62.1%. At the 4-day range, that signal is extraordinarily rare, and forecasters across the board are using language reserved for classic, high-end outbreak scenarios. So why is the atmosphere behaving this way today? It comes down to a textbook spring tornado pattern firing on all cylinders simultaneously. A potent shortwave trough is diving out of the west into the mid-Mississippi Valley, rapidly deepening a surface low-pressure system that low tracks northeastward from southern Kansas into northern Missouri through the day. As it does, a cold front swings south and east while a warm front charges northward, acting like a highway for Gulf moisture surging into the region. Precipitable water values are forecast near or above the 99th percentile for late April, an unusually moist air mass. Combine that with steep mid-level lapse rates, surface dew points climbing into the upper 60s, and one of the strongest low-level jet setups of the spring, and the significant tornado parameter climbs above 5 from Texas into Illinois. That parameter value is correlated with the most dangerous tornado days on record. The biggest day by far is today, Monday, April 27th. Morning is already complicated. An MCS has been rolling through northern Missouri and into Iowa since before dawn, and that early convection creates two competing factors for this afternoon. The outflow could limit how far north the best instability reaches, but those outflow boundaries can also become anchor points where discrete afternoon supercells explode into life. The SPC's own mesoscale discussions flag this as the greatest source of uncertainty, exactly where the air mass recovers and how fast. Best confidence right now sits in central and eastern Missouri, central and southern Illinois, and western Kentucky. Once storms fire in those areas, and they will fire, the environment is exceptional. Long hotographs, strong effective bulk shear, and a very healthy low-level wind field all favor organized, long-lived supercells. Any discrete storm that holds together through the afternoon has the potential to produce a significant tornado. A couple of violent tornadoes in the EF3 or stronger category are genuinely possible. Cities like Springfield, St. Louis, Cape Girardeau, Carbondale, Paducah, and Evansville need to be on high alert. Hail up to 3 inches in diameter is possible with the strongest supercells. The wind threat is also enormous. A 45% probability of damaging winds sits over the corridor, including St. Louis and Springfield, with gusts of 60 to 80 metri EH, likely along the squall line as it develops through the evening. Even after storms go linear, embedded mesovortices keep a tornado threat alive across western Kentucky, western Tennessee, and eventually into Mississippi well into the night. For Tuesday, the threat shifts south into the lower Mississippi Valley and the southern plains, from northeast Texas through southwestern Arkansas. Large hail and damaging winds become the primary story, but a few tornadoes remain possible, especially near Dallas-Fort Worth and southwestern Arkansas, where discrete supercells may hold together before storm clusters dominate. Now let's break down the timing, because knowing when this peaks is just as important as knowing where. Through mid-morning right now, the MCS and associated storms are tracking east through Missouri, Illinois, and Kentucky. Some gusty winds and hail possible, but the most dangerous window is still ahead. From roughly 10 a.m. to noon, storm coverage will increase, and any storm getting ahead of the main cluster across western Kentucky deserves attention, but instability is still building. Starting around 1 p.m. is when things shift. Supercell initiation begins along and ahead of the dry line and cold front from eastern Missouri south through western Kentucky into Tennessee. These initial storms access the best combination of instability and shear of the entire event. The window from 2 p.m. to 6 gauss or 7 p.m. is the peak tornado period, the part of the day you absolutely cannot be caught off guard. By 3 to 4 p.m., storm coverage explodes across southern Illinois and Missouri, and this is when long-track tornado events are most likely to develop. St. Louis, Springfield, Champaign, and Paducah are all directly in the crosshairs of this peak window. Around 5 to 6 p.m., the transition from supercells to a squall line begins near St. Louis and western Missouri. As that line accelerates southeast, damaging winds of 60 to 80 mph chase become the dominant threat. Embedded tornadoes in the line remain possible. By 8 to 9 p.m., watch for new storm development near Little Rock and Fort Smith in Arkansas. If those storms fire, all hazards return to the table through the early overnight. Severe weather lingers into the overnight across Kentucky, Tennessee, and Mississippi before finally winding down after 2 a.m. Here's the technical detail that puts today in a different class. Effective bulk shear values across the prime corridor are forecast to reach 60 to 70 knots. The low-level jet tonight cranks at 50 to 60 knots, feeding intense rotational energy at the surface. Together with STP values above 5 across a massive swath, these numbers describe an environment that doesn't just support tornadoes, it supports violent, long-track tornadoes with the potential to stay on the ground for tens of miles. That's exactly what the CIG2 designation means. And while the uncertainty around morning convection adds some nuance, the fundamental atmospheric setup doesn't change. Today's storms will be dangerous. One additional impact to keep in mind, the Weather Prediction Center has a slight risk of excessive rainfall in place. Precipitable water values near the 99th percentile, combined with hourly rain rates of 1 to 2 inches along the squall line, could trigger flash flooding in urban areas and along streams throughout the evening and overnight. If you live anywhere across central Illinois, southern Missouri, western Kentucky, or western Tennessee, have your shelter location picked out before 2 p.m. today. Know where you are going if a warning is issued for your area. Make sure your wireless emergency alerts are turned on. If you live in a mobile home anywhere in this corridor, now is the time to make a plan to get to a sturdier structure before afternoon. More updates will keep coming all day. Subscribe so you stay ahead of this outbreak, and we will see you in the next video.